Now I'm at the place which can be the most important for any state. Yes, I'm at the Capitol State building of Texas in Austin, right behind me. Let's explore this. Right now, the Vice President of US is visiting Austin, and you can see that the meeting of the Texas Assembly is currently going on, and there are a lot of people around here. So they are going to start a guided tour, and I will try to show you the whole Capitol building through that guided tour.
All right, so I'd like to officially welcome you all to the Texas State Capitol. My name is Luis, I'll be y'all's tour guide, and I work for the State Preservation Board. And our job is to preserve and maintain the Capitol and all Texas Governor's Mansion and the State History Museum as well. Now, this building has been here for 138 years. Construction started in 1882, finished in 1888, and it was designed by an architect named Elijah Myers. And he was originally from the state of Michigan and also designed the capitals of Michigan and of Colorado, in addition to Texas, so 3 in total. And he designed this building in the Italian Renaissance Revival style. So if you look up all around you, at the ceilings, the columns, the door frames, you see that really intricate, ornate craftsmanship, characteristic of that style and that time period. You're going to see many examples of this really nice architecture all throughout the building today. Now, this room where we are right now, this is the South Foyer, is one of the main entrances of the building. And in here, we have a few of these art pieces. And these art pieces tell you just a little bit about the Texas Revolution, the period in our history when we were fighting for independence from Mexico. So, to start, that painting over there on that wall, that would be of David Crockett. And he originally was a lawmaker from the state of Tennessee. After he had lost his re-election bid, he had heard about the Texas Revolution and came here to join in the fight. And he and his fellow soldiers would end up at the Battle of the Alamo, where unfortunately they would all lose their lives. But it was that sacrifice that inspired the rallying cry, "Remember the Alamo." And that phrase inspired many other people to come to Texas from the United States and help in the fight for independence. And then, in that painting over there, that one is called the Surrender of Santa Anna. And Santa Anna, he was the president of Mexico during that time, during the Texas Revolution. And you can see him in the painting. He's the man in the middle, in the white pants and the blue jacket. And he is surrendering to the man lying on the ground next to him, who would be Sam Houston, the leader of Texas at that time. Now, this surrender had happened the day after the Battle of San Jacinto, which was the final battle of the Texas Revolution, after which Texas gained its full independence and it became its own country. And Sam Houston, who you saw lying down in the painting, he had his ankle bandaged up. He was wounded, but he did survive. And after that, after the revolution, he would go on to be the first president of Texas. And he's also depicted in this statue right here. Now, both of these statues are made of Italian marble by a German sculptor named Elizabeth Ney. And these have been here since 1903, more than 120 years. So Sam Houston, after the revolution, became the first and then later third president. Later on, Texas joins the United States. He becomes a senator, then later governor of Texas. That makes him the only person in all of United States history to serve as the governor of 2 separate states, as he was also governor of Tennessee before moving to Texas. Then on this side, that is the namesake for the city of Austin, that is Stephen F. Austin. And we like to call him the father of Anglo Texas, as he brought the first 300 Anglo, and that just means English-speaking families from the United States here to Texas in 1820. And over the next 10 years after that, he would bring over 1,000 American families to reside here in the state of Texas. And so that's a bit about these two, essentially 2 of our founding fathers of the state of Texas. The ceiling up there, it is about 218 feet tall. And for a frame of reference, if you were to take the Statue of Liberty in New York City off her pedestal and place her in this room, just the green part, she'd be able to fit and still have more than 60 feet left before her torch actually touches the ceiling. And that's how tall it is inside this room. Now, from the outside of the Capitol, it is about 300 feet tall. That makes it taller than the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. by 14 feet. Because of course, as we like to say, everything's bigger in Texas. Of course, that applies to this building too. The way they actually do their jobs in here is that once they're discussing a bill, each of them will get a chance to stand up and debate for or against it. And they speak directly from their desk, and they get unlimited time to speak. There's no time limit at all. But they do have some rules to follow. Those rules is that while it is their turn to speak, they must stay standing the entire time. Unless they have a medical issue, standing the entire time. And also during their turn, they cannot leave the room for any reason, not even to go to the bathroom, not even to get food or water. And final rule is that they must stay on topic, only discussing things that are in relation to that bill being discussed on that day. So while technically they get unlimited time, those rules make it so naturally they do not stand up there and just keep speaking for hours and hours. And so after they are all done debating, they move to vote, and how they vote is very simple. It's like you see in movies and television, out loud, aye or nay, or they can also show with their fingers. 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 to abstain from the vote. And so that is how the senators do their jobs in here. And the person who sits up at the very front in that middle desk, that would be for the Lieutenant Governor of Texas. Today, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Essentially, it acts as the Vice President of Texas and also acts as a tiebreaker vote here in the Senate if one is necessary. Now, other things we have, of course, we have these giant paintings you probably noticed on this wall. So these paintings, both made by the same artist, a man named Henry McArdle, and they represent 2 important battles from the Revolution. This one of the Battle of the Alamo, the other over there of the Battle of San Jacinto. So just to give you a little more of the story, a little more context, the Battle of the Alamo, it lasted 13 days. And after 13 days of the siege, on the final day, the Mexican forces got inside and defeated the Texans. It was only 189 Texans versus more than 2,000 Mexican soldiers. It was an enormous difference in numbers. Now, unfortunately, the Texans were defeated, but it did inspire many other Texans to join the fight and to take up arms. And 6 weeks later, represented in the other painting, was the Battle of San Jacinto. And if y'all would like, we can move across that way so we can get a better view of it. This one here is of the Battle of San Jacinto, the final battle of the Texas Revolution, and it occurred 6 weeks after the Battle of the Alamo. What occurred on that day is that the Texan and Mexican forces were supposed to meet early in the morning for battle. The thing is that the Texan forces did not show up in the morning that day. So the Mexican forces, they show up and they wait several hours. After waiting several hours, they decide, all right, it's not gonna happen. The Texans are not gonna show up. And so they relax, they let their guard down, they get some food in them, have a siesta. But later that same day in the late afternoon, the Texan forces do show up and they launch a surprise ambush attack on the Mexican forces, defeating them in only 18 minutes. It was a very quickly fought battle. 900 Texans versus more than 1,500 Mexican soldiers. Even with the numbers difference, there was that element of surprise that allowed Texas to come out on top and win the battle. And the next day is when they capture President Santa Anna, they force him to surrender. That is officially how Texas gains its independence from Mexico and becomes its own country. So we're now here in the Texas House of Representatives chamber. This here is the other side of our legislature. And here, as you can see, there's many, many more desks. In the House of Representatives, it is made up of 150 members. Each of them represent about 200,000 Texans each. When they are elected to office, they are in office for 2 years instead of 4. But just like with the senators and with the governors, for them also no term limits. So every 2 years, they can just continue to run again and again and again indefinitely. Now, the way they actually do their jobs here in this room, it's very similar. They also debate, discuss, and vote on laws, but it's a little different in here. In here, instead of debating directly from their desks, they debate from the podium in the center of the room. And from that podium, each of them get only about 10 minutes to make their arguments for or against the bill they're discussing on that day. And the same rules apply. They must stay standing the entire time, they cannot leave the room, and they must stay on topic. But of course, only 10 minutes, so not super difficult to achieve that goal. And after each of the representatives have had their chance to speak, they will then move to vote. And how they vote is also different. They do not vote with out loud voice votes in here, as there's just too many of them, it would take too long. Instead, they use the buttons on their desks. There's a green button for yes, red for no, and a white button to abstain from the vote. And then the large boards up at the front, those have the names of all the representatives and lights that will actually light up and show how each person is voting, red, green, or white. And so that is how things are done here in the House of Representatives chamber, how the laws are made in general. And once again, a law has to pass by majority vote on both sides, Senate and House, then be approved by the governor to be official. Is that balcony that you see up there? So that balcony, that is the public viewing gallery. So the public viewing gallery, whenever the legislature is in session, they will close these front doors here and visitors cannot enter this section, but visitors can almost always go up to the balcony, take a seat, and actually watch the session as it happens live. And it is completely free. You do not need an invitation. Any person can come inside the Texas Capitol, sit up there, and actually watch the lawmakers as they are doing the jobs live. All the debates, the discussion, the voting, everything like that. And there's about 500 seats up there, same with the Senate chamber, both on this side and on that side, about 500 seats each. So you can fit quite a few people up in that balcony for viewing. And last thing I'd like to mention is if you look at this composite here, or whichever one is closest to you, these composites here contain the photos of all the representatives from a specific year. So this one over here is of 2017, this one right here of 2023. And actually one of the most common questions people will ask me on the tours is about the photos of the children in the middle. So those children, they're known as the mascots of the legislature. And most of them are the children and grandchildren of the lawmakers. This is a tradition that we have had for more than 100 years. And these children, they don't have any specific job or anything like that they do here. They don't vote, they don't make the laws, but they're there to remind the lawmakers who they do this for. Because of course their children, their grandchildren will eventually grow up and be the future of Texas. So of course important to keep them in mind when they are making the laws in here. And so yeah, so that's what we have here in the House chamber. Just like with the Senate chamber, after the tour is over, you can come back in here on your own, take a look around more, take more photos, ask more questions and all that.
So this was Luis with me, and I hope you enjoyed the video and you enjoyed the tour of this Capitol State building and you learned a lot about the Texan history. Keep watching and keep supporting, and don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. See you.